Well, thank you very much, Rebecca, and the panel, and everyone who is still here with the innovation stage and did not follow Rebecca's invitation to swiftly move to meet the speakers face to face, albeit in the virtual realm. If you stay here in the program of the innovation stage, you will also hear more about the digital identity, because our next speaker, let me briefly introduce him to you. He joined Onfido, which of course is one of our premium partners, in 2016, helping the business grow from a team of 50 to over 450 employees. He's regional director for Northern Europe, and as such, he has been instrumental in informing their product growth with his comprehensive market knowledge. There he is already. He's an advocate for innovation in FinServe, regularly speaking on the topic at industry events. He's speaking now here on day 2 of DigiFin 21 on transforming security and experience with digital identity. Hello and welcome, Ruben Sagar. Good to have you with us.
Yeah, great to be here. Like many of you, I'm dialing in from home here, so in my daughter's bedroom, but great to be with you all. Great. So we want to share a little bit around our experience over the last 12 months and what that's meant for digital onboarding, online fraud, security, and everything that we face as a business and you face as peers in the market. We're going to look a little bit and pull out some data in terms of user trends that we've seen, but also some data in terms of fraudster trends that we've seen. So we've got to be cognizant of the good guys and also the bad guys in this world. So we all know the world went digital in 2020. That led to lots of change we would like to forget. So we're all keen to get back to restaurants, bars, etc. But also some changes that we're all pretty happy with and really comfortable with. And digital onboarding in financial services is one of those areas where we've seen significant change for the good. We've seen onboarding processes digitalized and improved because there's been this closure of branches that's forced us all to act very, very quickly. So thinking about consumers and how that's impacted user behavior, we wanted to pull out some stats and some data we've seen in terms of user behavior and what they are now expecting after this 12 months of digitalization and acceleration of digitalization in terms of onboarding services. So when we look at consumers, and we've got 3 consumers here in front of you, behavior and the expectations that they have for financial services businesses in terms of onboarding has shifted dramatically. So what we now see is that consumers will walk away from poor experiences. So 58% of users will abandon long or confusing processes. So gone are the days where they're comfortable sitting in a bank branch and having a nice cup of tea or a cup of coffee and a biscuit. They want to be able to onboard in processes that are seamless, and if they don't, they'll move to a competitor. And this is particularly pertinent for young customers, those customers that are opening maybe their very first bank account and starting their journey with the bank. Customers also feel restricted online. So customers are not necessarily feeling like they can access services in the way that they would like to. And often what we're seeing is that users that have disabilities and issues with regards to accessibility, they are affected by online onboarding processes and the lack of openness in terms of those onboarding processes more than others. And clearly users are becoming more and more worried about their data. This is particularly an issue in the EU and in European countries where data privacy, as we all know, is more of a sensitive issue than maybe it is for our friends in the US. So having that as a key cornerstone of any digital onboarding process is really, really important. But what about the fraudsters? How have they changed over the last 12 months? Well, one of the things that we've seen is that the pandemic has really pushed fraud online. And there's kind of 2 factors here. One is, as we closed branches, we didn't just push normal customers to online methods. We also closed the opportunity for fraudsters to complete their day-to-day work in store, in person, in branch. So they moved online and started to attack online. But we're also opening up our online estate to more and more services. We're making services that traditionally would only be accessible in person available online, and that's created more opportunity for fraudsters. And this graph really shows just how dramatic that increase has been. So as the world went into global lockdown at the end of March, early April, you can see this huge shift in terms of online fraud. And I think what is interesting about this is as Europe went into a deep lockdown, that shift was obviously more pronounced than the slightly less strong lockdown that we saw in the US, based on the slightly different governance that they decided to have. So Europe increased dramatically over the last 12 months in terms of online fraud, and that's something that we should be cognizant of and really look to address. Interestingly, fraudsters have also changed their behavior in the same way that we've changed our behavior. So I'm sure everyone on the call is really aware of that feeling of work and home life blurring into one. That is the case for fraudsters as well. In 2019, we saw frauds being a 9 to 5, Monday to Friday job. They were working as we all did. But in 2020, that's changed significantly. Fraud is now a Monday to Sunday activity, and fraudsters are working hard to attack our systems as much as they can. We've also seen a shift in terms of the digital wave creating business challenges. So that user behavior, that fraudster behavior has meant that we've had to see a number of different business challenges. If we look at legacy tools for compliance, often the way that you created a more compliant solution is you created more layers of interaction for your financial institution. You ask the customer to interact more, to submit more documents, to visit you more in person. That approach simply isn't okay for customers today from a user experience perspective, but it's also been shown to not necessarily provide the improved level of fraud detection and fraud capture that we would expect to see in a modern world. What we've also seen is this idea of identity being a risk through the entire customer journey. So whereas we usually thought or used to think about KYC and identity verification at point of onboarding, actually we're starting to see the importance of monitoring identity throughout that user's journey with a business, whether it's through PEPs and sanctions, ongoing monitoring, or other services. And what we're also seeing is this continuation of that trend that we've seen over the last 2 to 3 years of challenger banks innovating and challenging traditional institutions to improve products as quickly as possible. What are some of the issues with digital identity in the old world? We've touched on them in terms of the physical interaction, but what we're also seeing is trends that are impacted by impacting digital identity as well. So traditional methods of identity verification through database tools are fast becoming weaker because of this explosion of availability in terms of identity and PII data online. 36 billion records were breached in the first 3 quarters of 2020, but also the cost of that data is decreased substantially. So for $4, you can buy someone's PII, go online, access their services on their behalf, and have a whale of a time. What we've also seen is a shift in terms of, okay, so banks are starting to get onboarding and authentication at point of onboarding right. But what we often forget about is the need to have really seamless processes for re-authentication. So I sign up for my bank, it's a great process. I sign up in under 5 minutes, but I then lose my password and I have to phone up a help desk. 30 to 50% of help desk calls are around password resets, a process that could be automated if we used biometrics and authentication in a more seamless way. And that costs us money, $70 per those password resets. So in this world of ones and zeros, how can we really know who we are dealing with? Our view here is it's all around our approach to identity. We need to move away and move beyond this idea of seeing our customers as being an account number or an email address. They are individuals, and we need to allow them to prove their identity with their individual assets, their biometrics, their identity documents. That allows us to have more confidence in terms of who we're dealing with, but it also allows us to offer really beautiful customer experiences for our users. I'll touch on this very briefly, but Onfido's approach and the approach of many of our peers in the market is around using identity documents to validate whether an identity exists, and then using biometrics to prove ownership of that identity. And this is a process we've all become familiar with through the likes of Monzo, Revolut, Bunk, N26, and also some of our traditional banks across Europe that have started to adopt this approach to identity verification. What's really interesting, I think what's going to become more exciting, more interesting over the next 12 months is how we start to apply this move to biometrics for re-authentication. So how can we solve some of the bigger problems for banks, those problems that involve face-to-face or chat interaction with our customers that create administrative headaches for the banks using biometrics? And that's really where the challenger banks are pushing the industry today. So they're using biometrics to allow individuals to log in, to reset passwords, to transact, to solve for high value transactions and step up auth in terms of PSD2, but also to edit account details. And we're not talking here about using iOS or Android's biometrics, so they're part the fingerprint or the face scan that you use to log into applications on your phone. What we're talking about is taking biometrics and attaching that to the identity document that the customer submitted 5-10 years ago, and creating a thread that proves that not only are they the owner of the device, but they're also the owner of the identity that was used to sign up for your product. And that's a crucial shift. We want to allow our customers and financial institutions want to allow their users to be able to use their biometrics to re-authenticate, creating seamless journeys that are secure for the bank. So with this real identity, what can you do? Well, you can provide new offerings and business models, and you can sell services, cross-sell products to your customers in a really seamless way with very little friction, but with high security that you are seeing and dealing with the individual that you first thought you were dealing with when they signed up for a bank account all those years ago. As we start to think about delivering these digital onboarding journeys and these authentication journeys to our customers, what are the things that we really need to think about? Inclusivity is really important, and having anti-bias algorithms, so ensuring that our products and our biometric checks work for people that are of different backgrounds, not just white males like myself. That allows us to detect more fraudsters, but it also allows us to ensure that everyone has access to the products. Granularity of data. GDPR is very clear in the fact that it allows for biometrics to be used for verification and authentication, but it's also really clear that if you are blocking a customer from accessing services due to biometric verification checks, you need to provide a reason for doing so. So getting granular data from a provider is crucial. And then document coverage becomes more and more important. When we speak to our customers, we know that for the majority of users, you're going to be looking at one identity document. So a bank in Germany will be seeing most of their users use a German national ID card or a German passport. But there'll be a long tail of users that use other documents from around the world. And those are the documents that tend to cause the most pain for our financial service customers, because they require a knowledge that the bank doesn't have, and they require much more manual work. And finally, accessibility. We spent millions investing in our physical banking structures to have ramps into our banks. We have Braille in terms of the ability for customers to read physical documents better. But what we haven't thought about is how we make our online services accessible to those individuals. And whereas previously we could say, if you can sign up online, brilliant. If you can't go into the branch, today that's not a possibility because we're closing those branches. So making those online services accessible is becoming really, really important. I think I've got about 2 minutes left, and that's the end of my slide. And if there's any questions now, happy to answer those. And I know the moderator will be able to bring them up. Alternatively, I'll be sticking around in the speaker corner to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ruben. I don't have the possibility to pass on questions right now because there is a short break right now, Ruben. But do stick around. I think it's great that you offer that, because people, of course, can use that break in order to catch up with you in the speakers room. I'm sure there are lots of questions there and things to explore further. thank you for now, and please greetings to your kid. It's great that you could use the room in order to do your presentations from there. Very generous indeed. Okay, Ruben. Well, thanks so much, and yes, please do stick around. I'm sure people will use that break now in order to get in touch with you.